The Colombian armed conflict, spanning from 1964 to 2016, was one of the longest and most complex conflicts in Latin America. Rooted in a combination of political, social, and economic factors, this protracted conflict involved various armed groups, including leftist guerrillas, right-wing paramilitary forces, and state security forces. This article provides an overview of the Colombian armed conflict, its historical context, key actors, and the challenges faced in achieving lasting peace and stability. Historical background and root causes. The Colombian armed conflict emerged against the backdrop of deep-rooted social inequalities, political instability, and weak state institutions. Historical grievances, land disputes, and unequal access to resources exacerbated tensions and fueled armed resistance. The conflict was also influenced by the international dynamics of the Cold War, with ideological motivations and external support influencing the actions of the different armed groups. Armed actors and dynamics. The Colombian armed conflict involved multiple armed actors, each with their own agendas and methods. The Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, the National Liberation Army, and other smaller guerrilla groups fought against the Colombian government, while right-wing paramilitary groups such as the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia emerged to combat the guerrillas. The involvement of drug cartels further complicated the conflict dynamics as they sought to protect their interests and control territories. Humanitarian consequences and displacement. The Colombian armed conflict had severe humanitarian consequences, affecting millions of Colombians. The conflict resulted in a high number of casualties, forced displacements, and violations of human rights. Civilians, particularly indigenous communities, Afro-Colombians, and peasants, bore the brunt of the violence and were subject to extortion, forced recruitment, sexual violence, and massacres. The internally displaced population faced challenges in accessing basic services and suffered from socio-economic marginalization. Peace processes and attempts at resolution. Over the years, various attempts were made to address the Colombian armed conflict through peace negotiations. These efforts included dialogues between the government and different armed groups, ceasefire agreements, and demobilization processes. Notably, the negotiations with the FARC, which culminated in the signing of a peace agreement in 2016, marked a significant milestone in the pursuit of peace. However, implementing and consolidating the peace process have faced challenges, including the reintegration of ex-combatants and addressing the root causes of the conflict. International involvement and support. The Colombian armed conflict received international attention and assistance. The international community, including the United Nations and neighboring countries, played a role in facilitating peace talks, providing humanitarian aid, and monitoring human rights violations. International actors also supported Colombia's efforts in combating drug trafficking, which had fueled the conflict economy. Challenges in post-conflict reconstruction. Transitioning from conflict to peace poses significant challenges for Colombia. Implementing comprehensive peace agreements, addressing socio-economic inequalities, and promoting reconciliation are ongoing tasks. Land reform, justice and accountability for human rights abuses, and alternative development programs in areas affected by illicit crops remain important priorities. Additionally, ensuring security and preventing the resurgence of violence require sustained efforts. Achievements and road ahead. Despite the challenges, the Colombian armed conflict has witnessed notable achievements. The peace agreement with the FARC brought an end to the group's armed insurgency and marked a significant step toward peace. The reduction in violence and increased security in many areas have allowed for greater investment, development, and improved access to basic services. However, the path to lasting peace and reconciliation requires continued commitment from all parties involved. Efforts to address the underlying socio-economic inequalities, strengthen state institutions, promote truth and reconciliation, and build inclusive governance structures are crucial for